Koozies all over the freaking place. Definitely need one.
Everything looking good, Mike?
Where's Fieder? Flipping some crack. Carrying your tackle around. And a whole lot more on this edition of Tackle Shop Live. Hey, man, what's up, Oliver? Mike Hayer, how you doing? Keith Howard?
Cut my ears back a little.
Unmute. Hey, how's everybody doing? I think you can hear me now. I don't know. Unmute. Hey, how's everybody doing? What's that? I don't know. Is that you?
It's working.
Is it working?
Yeah, it's working.
Okay. All right, we're good now. I don't know about the music. Hopefully everybody can hear me now. Anyway, we got a great show for you. As you can tell, we don't have Seth Fieder. Seth Fieder is not here. He's a no-show. We can't find him anywhere. You know, the Where's Waldo, Nick? And now it's Where's Fieder?
Where is Fieder is the question. But we got to move on.
Yep, we're moving on. We got a great show. We last minute it right into this thing, and we got some great stuff we're going to talk about. So don't worry. We are with you. Dave Richardson, how you doing? Kevin Geezy, what's up? Brant Roth, how you doing, pal? Jack Hinkle, Andy Garrett. Mark, what's up, Mark? What's going on? Kenny Clemmer. Man, I'll tell you right now, guys, we got a great show for you tonight. I'm Mike. This is George, and behind the camera is cameraman Nick. Good to see you guys. Glad to have you here. But first thing is first, Nick. We are a little over a week away from the biggest tournament in the Northeast.
No, the country.
The country. Biggest tournament in the country.
US of A.
You can't miss this one. This is it. This is the big grand finale of the year. So early in the season. SummerSlam 2022 out of Anchor Marine in Northeast Maryland on the upper Chesapeake Bay is on next Sunday, the 15th of May. You still have a lot of time to sign up. And this is a really cool tournament for you guys, you first timers tuning into this tonight. This tournament is a $250 tackle buy-in. So in essence, you come in, you go online, you buy $250 of Shimano, G Loomis, Jackal, and Power Pro, who are our sponsors for many, many years, and who we are so grateful for. And so are you guys, just by your outpouring and how you support them every year here in the shop. You buy $250 worth of that equipment, and it's yours to keep. You go out and you have a terrible day and you fish like George does and don't catch a fish. Man, I am telling you, guess what? You got $250 worth of tackle in your hand, bro.
What?
Hey, I'm just telling you the way it is. So it's a must tournament, as Mark says. He was there last year, Mark.
Where'd that come from?
I don't know. I just dug it up because that's what I'm usually dealing
And you
with.
know what's cool, Mike?
Man, I'm a beast.
I believe now. You guys know I've been down at the flats a couple days. Okay, I believe next week is going to be absolute fire down there. I think you're going to hit it right.
Nick, there's a few things that are coming into play here. First and foremost is we have a big blow coming in this weekend. Big front coming in Friday.
Yep.
East to northeast winds, which, first of all, is rare in May. Second of all, is tough to fish in. Once they get up in that 15 to 25 range, it's very unforgiving. So thankfully our tournament's not this weekend.
No, you didn't want to. I don't know what we would do. We'd probably still go.
Thankfully our tournament's not this weekend. But, that being said, that's going to set up for that next week's weather pattern, which is stable and warmer nights and warmer days and the moon phase getting right. We're going to have a big event.
Yep.
The fishing has been good.
Yep. Plus, it's going to keep the pressure off. There's not going to be anybody down there beating things up, and with this big blow this weekend.
Not unless they have really big boats.
Yeah, there'll be some guys out.
They've
but
already canceled
a big tournament.
They've already canceled 2 decent-sized events. Fair Marine, which is out of Connecticut, has been for the last couple of years putting the upper Chesapeake Bay on their rotation, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
They have a little open series they run, which is, from what I understand, very, very nice tournament circuit.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a very good reputation, up in that
that
whole northeast corridor. They're quite the quality boat dealer. So they had to go ahead and postpone, which kind of sucks because they have contestants in their event already down here from Connecticut region pre-fishing.
Yeah.
But, what are you going to do? You can't control the weather.
No, and I don't know. They're the blow that they're going to have down there Saturday. I heard you talking about the gusts, 25-mile gusts, 10 to 15 with 25-mile gusts. I mean, it's going to be bad. And you could do it. You could do a tournament. You want to take the chance. That's what it really gets to, with this insurance stuff. I guess that's why everybody cancels. But you could fish it. You could do a tournament, and it would be nasty, and it would be ugly, and everybody would be miserable. But you could do it. So
you know what I want to do?
What?
I want to invite the Fair Marine boys from up in the northeast region, the Connecticut way.
Yeah,
they're going to be down here next Saturday. They rescheduled their event out of the Sassafras next Saturday, and I want to make sure they understand that they can jump in our event on Sunday.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Come on in.
All they got to do is jump online, put an order in.
Yep.
And hey, get in line for some of that big cash.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what's going down, boys.
Yeah. So
sharpen your hooks and tie your knots. So
this is Tackle Shop Live. Thank you everybody for stopping in. We have to apologize that there's no Seth Fieder at this show today. We're gonna reach out to him, see what the problem was, and see if we can't get him rescheduled and see what's going on there. So
there's a lot of weeks left in the year.
There's a lot of time left, and we'll reach out to him again and see what we can come up with. But we'll get to the bottom of what the situation was. But like I said, we got a great show for you. And I just want to say to Jeff Bennett, this hoodie was a gift to me because he said it was an awesome color and a cool. This is one of the new hoodies from Shimano that's going to be coming out here this coming year. And it's a pretty sweet one. It's a gift. I got gifted from a Shimano guy. And
where's yours at, George?
They only had one, George. and
what's next?
And Jeff was telling me it looks good on me. So, but I can pull off any color, Jeff. I can pull it all off. John Wessner, we are going to break down the Bantam for you tonight.
Oh, that's going down.
We got a great little breakdown of that reel when we get to our tackles talk section, and we are going to bust that down. The brand new Bantam is here in the shop, ready to roll, and we will talk about that to make sure everybody knows.
Yeah,
about
well,
that.
when we get into the world famous tackle talk segment,
yeah,
well, I think it's world famous. We're going to talk about the Bantam and a couple of other items in the tackles talk segment. Eventually, we have a lot of turf to cover tonight. I got 2 pages here.
Yeah. So we're going to get going on
Exciting
that
stuff.
We are definitely going to get going on that, and let's get started, George. What do you got, brother? What do you got?
Well, I like a little tournament talk.
Yeah.
And since your music machine isn't working, I guess I don't get a lead in.
I don't know, man.
Hit me. I mean, I can hear it.
I can hear it good too.
Yeah.
I guess you guys can't.
Just imagine if I had that guitar pick I found on the floor yesterday.
Yeah.
I'd be up here air jamming right now.
You said you were going to, but then
I threw it away. I was cleaning up.
I was really looking forward to some air guitar from you today.
Yeah.
Because obviously there's something wrong with this here contraption.
I could have thrown down
that
some air guitar.
There's no music coming in.
But I won't. So
No.
all you members of the air bands out there, don't worry, I'm not coming for your job just yet.
Oh, it's working now, they said, George. Let's do that again. Tackle tournament talk going on right now. Oh, wait.
I just hope that, when we get up to Geraldo's level or, Larry King or something like that, I just hope you still frickin' manage to There you go.
It's tournament talk time.
All right. So,
come on!
Are you kidding me with this?
All right, everything's working.
That was a test run. All right.
Sorry about that, guys. We're going to get serious now.
We're just trying to keep this as low budget and trailer park trashy as possible.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we do like honky tonkin' and Miller Lights. You know what I mean?
We do.
I mean, dive bars, Miller Lights, and low budget bass fishing talk shows.
Yeah.
Those are 3 of the pillars that we live by.
3 of the greatest things in life.
And if you ever get over here, for those of you who don't come to the shop, if you ever get into the thriving metropolis of Columbia, PA, and stop by and see us, which we would love, right up the road from us, our buddy owns one of the greatest true to definition dive bars there are, and we may even escort you up there for a Miller Lite after hours, of course. But anyways, let's talk about this tournament on Lake of the Ozarks.
What a crazy tournament.
What a beautiful lake. First of all, this thing is a giant lake, and there's quite possibly no lake in existence with more boat docks. And they're all floaters. They're all anchored into, concrete embankments, because everything's improved. All of the shoreline is built up. This place receives, I heard from the Bass Pro broadcast booth guys today. They were talking about, this and that, and they said that lake receives something on the order of like 5 million vacationers per season, which sounds like a low number to me. It's probably a lot higher than that because it's beautiful. And, they're known for their pontoon boats out there that have their tri-tunes.
Yeah.
And they have like quad 450 Mercs on them.
Yeah, they go like 110 mile an hour up
and
the
all
lake.
the marinas that they were fishing in, you'd see these tunes up on the lift.
Yeah.
With like, I mean, the welfare tunes had like 2 300s on them. The frickin' Jam On It tunes had like quad 450Rs.
Yeah.
They run like 100.
Yeah, they love it.
So
they love it.
It's a cool place. But anyways, it's also full of fish. I hope a lot of you guys took the time to watch this, because for the last 4 days, these boys jerked on a few. Like 40 to 50. A couple of them reported catching up to 80 fish a day.
Yeah.
Now, they were doing a 2-pound minimum limit, so obviously a lot of them didn't count.
Yeah.
But
they caught some 5-pounders.
It's probably a good thing they did a 2-pound limit, or else Jesse Wiggins won today with 22 pounds. He probably would have won with 400 pounds today if it was a 1-pound limit. Because, I mean, every time you saw him, he was setting a hook.
Yeah.
But
what was he using?
As always.
Yeah.
There are, and we're up here in the Northeast, we are in all phases of spawn, particularly pre-spawn.
Yeah.
And this tournament and this lake was such a classroom for all phases of the spawn.
Yeah.
Did you get a chance to watch any of it, cameraman Nick? Or were you too busy fishing?
Oh, a little bit of both. But I did watch a little bit of it. But George, are you familiar with that lake?
I've never been on that lake. They call it LOZ.
Because what I wanted to ask you was, I don't know the baits and all that stuff. How does this lake set up? Is it a bait fish out in the middle type lake? Is it those docks?
It is post-spawn.
Okay.
Fall. Post-spawn fall. I mean, this is they call it the Ozarks, right? Not the television show. I mean, they're not all selling crack.
Yeah. Ozark show.
The Ozark Lakes.
Yeah.
Bull Shoals, Lake of the Ozarks, Table Rock, all those highland reservoirs that are out there. And they're fairly deep. There's a lot of like
thousands of acres.
They're massive. They're massive. Stephen Browning was running like 40 and 50 miles up the river from Blastoff. Well, not up the river, not 50 miles up the river. He was running like 40 and 50 miles
up the lake,
which put him like 30 miles up the river.
Wow. And
he was fishing that dirtier water. And what I think we can all learn from this, particularly for all of us in the mid-Atlantic to Northeast region who are just getting into our spawn, our southern viewers are just getting out of their spawn.
Yeah.
They're transitioning into a lot of topwater fish. But these guys were, it's kind of weird because that part of the world sort of mirrors this part of the world weather-wise. Right? Yeah. So this was a bed fishing tournament. This was a pre-spawn tournament. This was not too much post-spawn. But fish feeding up.
Because they were saying that the fish were just moving up, that they knew there was a couple fish there, and then they went back and there was a few more.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So Jesse Wiggins won it.
He's a great guy.
Yeah.
Jesse Wiggins is cool as hell.
Yeah, Jesse Wiggins was here.
He was here.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got him on a poster over there, Victory Rod poster.
Yeah, our St. Croix rod rep looks exactly like him. But anyways, Jesse Wiggins did what Jesse Wiggins does, which is take a Jackal flick shake, put it on a shaky head, and catch all of the fish.
Yeah.
He is a flick shake. He fishes that 5.8 Jackal flick shake on a shaky head that him and his brother pour. on a St. Croix 7-1 medium heavy Legend Elite spinning rod. Now this tournament,
that worm is a really cool worm.
it is. It was invented for
wacky rigging.
Yeah, for flick shaking.
It actually
was invented for flick shaking.
Yeah, when you take them out of the pack, you're like, oh man, all my worms are twisted. You know, they pour it in a twist so that
it's more of a bend.
No, I think it's a twist. It's like a bend twist or something.
Yeah, it's a bend twist.
It's a bend twist, but
not quite like a pretzel.
It doesn't fall. You know, it has a weird. It makes it wiggle all the time.
Well, I mean, it was designed to hook on a jackal flick shake head.
Yeah,
which is basically a weighted wacky head.
Yeah,
and wacky fish.
Yeah,
but you know, Jesse Wiggins has been
he's been
shaky head in this thing. I mean, this is his second win on this setup.
Yeah,
and as I was saying, this tournament, you know, these are floating docks, and these docks are what do you call it? Cabled. Big cables.
They are. They have big cables on them.
So all the fish like to spawn in behind the dock. So you're skipping. Jesse was skipping.
Yeah.
Well, you know, that's kind of dangerous on a spinning rod.
Mm-hmm.
So he re-spooled his spinning reels with 30-pound Smackdown.
Oh, man.
And put a 12-pound AbrazeX leader on.
Wow.
And he had, today in particular, he had a big fish, probably his second biggest fish of the day, like all up in them cables. And he even talked about his line.
Yeah.
You know, and so, you know, I think the power of the shaky head.
Yeah.
You know, we talked about shaky heads a lot on this show, and a lot of people kind of pigeonhole the shaky head as a dink bait, you know, numbers bait. Well, Jesse Wiggins has won a couple $100,000 on it, catching some good fish.
Mm-hmm.
So don't forget your shaky game during this spawning season. And what he was doing was catching some spawning fish, I'm sure, but he was also catching pre-spawners.
Oh yeah.
On his setup. So
that'd drive me crazy though, man. Go back in there, fish one side and fish the other side, you know, back and forth couple casts, and then back the boat out at 3,000 miles an hour, book out around it, go back in another slot, fish that one. I mean,
they worked hard.
They did. That's a lot of work, man. If you see them, they go on high. Everything they do is on high, and they're just zipping around those docks, man, to try to cover as many as possible.
Yeah, they worked hard. What do you got, cameraman Nick?
Oh, Robert here saying he is 30-pound overkill.
Well, I mean, he's fishing. It's 30-pound braid, which he was fishing Smackdown, Yozuri Smackdown, which has an 8-pound test to 10-pound test, depending on the line you choose. It's gonna come out at an 8 to 10 diameter, which is interesting, Robert, because his leader, which was 12, was actually thicker than his braid.
And you can cast that nice, so you can skip it nice. It doesn't hold back your cast, and it's a smart setup.
Yeah, it's you know, dealing with that. I'm sure, Robert, that when he gets into a more traditional environment with that rig, that he backs it down to like a 15 braid.
Yeah. Which I think a lot of guys throw to 15,
but
more so than anything.
You know, that the 30 is, you know, it sounds, you know, that's the thing with braid. So let's talk about this for 1 second here. A little segue on braid. You know, and I deal with this with our customer base every day. So you want to think about braid by its diameter, not necessarily its pound test. And what I mean by that is, let's talk about flipping and frogging. You know, flipping thick grass, frogging heavy cover. I am a huge advocate of 65-pound braid for 2 reasons. First of all, it's about a 17 to 20-pound test diameter, depending on the brand of line you compare it to. Well, I'll give you the extra thickness and call it a 20. Okay, so first of all, if I wasn't using braid, I would certainly not flip with anything under 20.
Mhm.
Okay. The other thing there is that braid's weakness is abrasion resistance.
Yes.
So you make up for that in diameter because whenever you fray braid, you're breaking individual small little fibers that make up the total unit.
Mhm.
So, you know, the SFT advice tag on braid is think of it in terms of diameter, not necessarily pounds test. Whatever that pounds test is fine. You know, one of the things that we talk about a lot is fishing top waters on braid, and I'm a big fan of 50-pound Power Pro for top waters. And it sounds excessive, but it's really not, because it's more towards the equivalent of a 12 to 14 mono, which when I fish top water on mono, I never fish less than 14. And that thickness gives me a good action on that top water, right?
Yeah.
So that is kind of a segue on that. And I'm glad Robert Bretz brought that up, because that's good stuff.
Yeah, I'm not sure what rod he was using, Robert.
He was using a 7-1 medium heavy Legend Elite St. Croix spinning rod, which is the rod he always uses to fish a shaky head.
Mm.
And he's a quantum guy, so he was fishing a 25 or a 30 size quantum smoke spinning reel.
What's up, Bill McDermott? How you doing, buddy? Good to see you. Simon's there, man. What's going on? Stage of bass in Illinois. Illinois probably
pretty similar to here.
I'd say it's very similar. It's a lot of pre-spawn, a few spawners. Some of our northwestern lakes are just getting smallmouth spawners up there. So
obviously there's been some fish that have spawned, but very, very few.
Yeah. Depends on what, depends on the body of water. But that's what's really cool about these cold winters. It stretches it out a lot. It really, there's waves and waves and waves and waves of fish that are moving in and moving out, and they're holding off. There's some fish going in, and so you always have these multiple patterns, which for tournament guys is a really good thing, because you're not all bunched. You don't have to be all bunched up. Now, there's the guys that do the bent pole pattern that just go where all the boats are. But the guys who figure out the pattern can figure out a pre-spawn pattern, a spawning pattern. You can really spread out and fish different stuff and have a good shot at it.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting. You brought up the shaky head, and I was in my own little tournament over this weekend, and one of the things I was doing was throwing a crankbait. Okay, and I would catch a couple fish, but when that bite would die, I had two options. Either I leave because I think there's no more fish, or I do something else. I'd go right back to that area with the shaky head, and I actually caught the bigger fish when I would come back with that shaky head than I did the crankbait. So, I mean, it was interesting.
Well, that's good.
That's a phenomenal strategy. And it's something that I'm a big player on that too, Nick, because I always think that, when you're cranking, you're catching that more aggressive fish. And if you catch multiples in an area, then that's the tip of the iceberg. And, when you crank your way through there, maybe crank your way back through there again, pick up a fish or two. Crank your way back through there again. If you pick up a fish or two, crank your way back through again until you're either not getting bit or you feel a miss in your bait, and then drop it down to the next level of, I always think of it as aggression. The crankbait's like, rah, and then you slow it, you finesse it back a little bit, maybe a shaky head, maybe a Texas rig, Sanko or jig or something of that nature, and then you kind of get those fish fired up again, because they're in there to feed.
I couldn't help but smile when you said, you're throwing that crankbait, and sometimes they slap at it after a while.
Yeah.
And it was funny because it's exactly what happened. And I knew that told me that there's still fish there.
Yeah, oh yeah.
but they just didn't want to keep getting stung by my crankbait.
Well, and it's a smart call to gear it down a notch and rework that area. And you saw that in this Bass Pro Tour event. For example, Dean Rojas, who finished second.
Yeah.
His game plan was throwing a jackhammer that he had rigged up with a big bite swim on trailer. And he would catch a couple fish on that. And then when he came to any wood on the bank, he would pick up his, he affectionately calls it Kermit. It's his bronze eye frog.
Yeah.
And, for those of you who are froggers who only frog on vegetation, this was like being in the freaking classroom with the master, because he was fishing his frog exactly the way you might fish a spook. He was casting it on lay down trees, even on steeper banks. And if there was a little wad of leaves balled up in the corner, he'd target that. And the first fish he caught was so cool. He cast up underneath this overhanging tree. He was more parallel to the bank, maybe a 45. He cast up underneath this overhanging tree, and there was a nice looking lay down. And he made a nice cast. He's known for that. He fishes a much lighter frog rod in open water than you may imagine.
Yeah.
He fishes something even a little lighter than a chatterbait rod a lot. But he gets that accuracy. So he puts that thing up there and he starts walking this frog. Now it's just open water. And you just see this water hump up underneath this thing like twice. And the cameraman, high five. This was a 5-something largemouth that just freaking choked this thing. And so he ran that.
Wow.
He ran that MO of the jackhammer with he's a big bite pro. So he was fishing their swim on trailer, which is kind of like a fishtail. And then he would put that down and pick up his frog and work any wood. And then, he's got good eyes. And he can see the fish. Most people can't see them. He can see them.
Eagle eye.
And he would flip his signature. I forget what his baits are called. They're big bite baits. One of them looks like a gill, a sunfish, and the other one looks like a shad. But he would flip, kind of like when Drew Benton was flipping his fighting frog, which is a Rojas signature bait.
Yeah.
So they would flip on those beds. So that was second place, and that showed the power of winding to cameraman Nick's point. Actually, third place.
I just think it's crazy, man, that these guys are throwing these frogs on these fish, man, at that time of year. That's great.
Well, you're learning here, bro.
It kind of really gives you some confidence in that.
Well, I was going to ask you guys that. Like, the water temperature couldn't have been that much different than what we have, right? You think?
What'd they say it was? 50.
Well, it started
58.
out in the 50s, but it had warmed up a little bit. And then it cooled off again. They had 1.5 inches of rain there last night.
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to be, you got to have ultimate confidence to be throwing that frog. I got to give it to him.
I do too. And they did it at that last the Santee Cooper tournament too. They threw that frog.
And
pre-spawners.
We need to do another frog show soon, guys. First of all, we love frogging.
I love frogging.
But we need to expand out on the frogging. Mike and I fished a couple of frog-only tournaments.
Yeah.
That we actually did well in.
Loved it.
And, the one tournament in particular, we fished a creek that didn't have a lick of vegetation in it. And we skipped our frogs on lay-down trees and walked them out like Zara Spooks. And we skipped our frogs on boat docks. Mm-hmm. And what's nice about that is it lets you put a topwater bait where very few topwater baits have ever been put.
Yeah.
And that's what Rojas does so well.
Yeah.
And obviously, over the years of watching him, we've learned a lot. Third place in that tournament, Wesley Strader, he caught a few fish on a chatterbait, jackhammer, unnamed bladed jig.
They all say that. What
You know what the unnamed bladed jig is?
Jackhammer.
Yeah, it's not a chatterbait. It's a jackhammer.
A jackhammer.
But he caught most of his fish on a finesse jig. And actually, the knockout round, he was the highest finishing angler in the knockout round. He ended up third in the tournament. They call him the W.
What's his name?
Wesley Strader.
Oh, Wesley.
They call him the W.
W.
I think that stands for win.
Win. Yeah, he's
good.
But
he was fishing a finesse jig, like a green pumpkin finesse jig, and just, doing his thing.
I saw a lot of guys throwing jigs again.
Yeah, well, a lot of guys. Who's big on a jig on that lake is Dave Lefebvre, who came really close to making the cut, and he said he had 80 fish.
Yeah,
on that last day.
Yeah,
and he's a jig fishing machine.
He is, and he's usually good on that lake. He's usually pretty good there.
He came close, man.
Yeah,
real close. And then the last guy I want to talk about is fourth place is Stephen Browning, who we kind of touched on. He was the only guy running way up that river, and he got screwed because yesterday he jacked him up good.
Then the rain happened.
And then last night that lake rose in 1.5 feet.
Yeah.
And his river got blown out. So he did really good finishing fourth by backing down 20 miles. He came back 20 miles to get the right watercolor, and then he just started fishing. And I think Stephen Browning,
he's been doing good all year.
Well, I think since the Bass Pro Tour has started, I think he's caught 99.8% of every fish he's caught on a jackhammer. He is a jackhammer chucking machine.
Yeah.
He's also a St. Croix pro, so he's all the time changing up rods. And he actually backed his big thing on chatterbaiting this year is he backed down a power. Last year he felt he lost a lot of fish because he's fishing too heavy of a rod. So we'll follow that and we'll follow up on that.
Yeah.
And there's some lessons that we can take to the bank from the Bass Pro Tour on Lake of the Ozarks. Congratulations to friend of SFT and St. Croix Pro staffer Jesse Wiggins, cracking 100K.
Hundos.
Turning onesies into hundies.
Raining hundos.
And George, is that tour or whatever you want to call it, is that growing on you? Are you enjoying it?
Well,
no, I don't like them.
No.
I mean, I like them all.
I like watching fishing, so it's neat to watch fishing, but I don't know. I don't even know what this tour is. What is it? Is it Summit Cup thing? Is it?
No. This was the Bass. This is the Bass Pro Tour.
See?
So the Bass Pro Tour is like the next level above what used to be the FLW.
But it's catch all the fish and weigh them.
Yes.
As many as you can.
Well, they have a cut weight.
Yeah.
This particular lake was set at 2 pounds.
Yeah.
The other thing that you referred to there was the cups.
Yeah,
and that's a separate division. And it's confusing, but
excuse me.
Excuse me. You're somewhat of an educated person. You should be able to figure it out.
No, you can. And I think there's probably more people that can't figure it out than can figure it out. And they don't know what they're watching on TV because this is something. You got something here. You got the big five, swinging 5. I don't know what the hell they are.
Now
it's crazy.
Now let it go.
Johnny Kopp, how you doing, buddy? Dave Sorello, I hope I got that right. Adam Tice, yes, I love the Jackal Carrera frog. It's a fantastic frog. Colby Roar, how are you, buddy? As I said, Bill.
What'd you call that?
What, Carrera?
Jackal Carrera?
Carrera.
That's a car. Porsche.
Whatever.
Makes.
That's
Cara frog. Cara.
No, it's a Carrera Porsche frog. It catches everything. It's a Porsche.
I think we should do a frog show in the next 2 or 3 episodes.
Ed Rownowski, how you doing? Tommy, what do you say, buddy? Josh Sawyer, how you doing? Smallmouth on the Conestoga. Yeah, man, I'm telling you. Dude, stick with that river because there's giants on that river. Nobody's fishing it either. Michael McCabe, how you doing? Jason Ryder, what's up, buddy? Glad everybody's joining us here on Tackle Shop Live. As if you're just joining in, we were supposed to have a Seth Fieder show. So me and George we couldn't get Seth hooked up. Last minute problems there, I guess. So me and George are filling in. You know, the professionals we are, Nick. We can do this. We can ad lib.
What?
We can go right into it.
That's right.
We can go hours, Nick.
We
with
got
nothing.
big information to go over tonight.
Big stuff.
Okay, big.
And we can do this. We're doing it like champs.
Matter of fact,
Gomez is in the house.
I want to talk about some flipping next. Some springtime flipping.
Yeah,
alternate flipping.
Well, I'm excited about this conversation because this is going to be something I'm going to be doing the next couple of weeks, and maybe the next month or so. I'm going to be doing this. You know, I'm going to put this into my rotation, and it's working. And there's guys, and I know it's working. You know why? Because people come in here secretly, quietly, sneak around. You know, come up, go like they make the big pass around the shop. You know, they go wide. And then they kind of fake like they're doing some stuff over there, and then they come back in, and then they drop on the register when they know somebody's there that doesn't really know anything, you know, like you know, maybe Caitlin's there or something, you know. She's like, I don't know, you know, whatever. They'll do a quick drop and throw it in the bag and out the door. Don't never say a word. And they're buying these baits, George, for like 2 years now.
Yeah, well, it's kind of a trend, you know, big profile flipping baits.
George just sits there like he's like,
yeah, I'm like, I have no idea what
the
you're
hell?
talking about, man.
What the hell is he talking about?
Yeah.
I'm trying to tell you how secret this bait is and how great it is, and nobody's throwing it. So I'm telling you.
I mean, we're not talking about a bait. We're talking about multiple baits.
Yeah. Well, no, we got two of them actually.
Well, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
So flipping
crack
in the spring. Flipping in the spring. So, you know, big stuff in the spring is bluegill profile. Bluegill profile during the spawning season. Bluegill profile
on post spawn. Big time post spawn.
You know, some real savvy anglers a few years ago, and we've talked about this before. But some real savvy anglers a few years ago have started flipping, you know, big profile, you know, bluegill profile.
Nick, if this had smell-o-vision on here, Nick, if we had smell-o-vision, the coolest thing about that bait is it smells like Fritos. I mean, legit Fritos.
So that's a 3.8 G-Crack bellows gill. But I want to also show you, particularly if your body of water is home to some healthier fish and some you know, some big gills. There's a 5.8 next to it. So you got a 3.8 bellows gill from G-Crack and a 5.8 bellows gill from G-Crack. So, you know, these profiles are really kind of been a secret little deal in the spring for a few years now.
Smell that, Nick? Smell it all the way over here.
And I also want to show you something Berkeley has done. Is her gilly.
Damn, I need some freaking dip.
Which is kind of along that same line. Let me get this thing open here. These gillies have come out in 3 sizes. This is the biggest one here. This is the 130 millimeter.
You know what that bait surprised me, George? How soft it is.
The gilly.
Yeah.
Well,
it is extremely soft.
So the bellows gill has a core. Let's see, Nick. We got a core. Okay. But we got these big bellows flaps to give it the profile.
Gills.
And the gilly, to Mike's point,
yeah,
which looks like a big chunk of plastic.
It really does. It's extremely
similar.
Yes. Yep.
There was
a little copying going on there, I believe.
Similar technique.
Yep. Like
knobby tires.
Yeah.
And so to get some size perspective, here's a 130 gilly. next to a 3.8 bellows gill. Okay.
Next to the, put it next to that big honker.
Now, here's a 130 gilly. Whoops, I did that backwards.
It's all right.
Next to a 5.8 bellows gill.
Look at that.
Okay.
I handpicked that color too. Peanut butter and jelly.
Now, on the other end of the spectrum,
Or
let's look at a 90 gilly. Okay. There's also a 110, which is obviously in between the two. Let me open this up here. I'm going to show you this 90 gilly. And I'm going to show you the 3.8 bellows gill. And now I just want to get the sizes straight for you all. And then we're going to talk about the whole flipping thing, right? So the 90 gilly is lengthwise pretty close to the 3.8 G crack bellows gill. Skosh narrower. Okay, so the smaller size, right?
yeah.
So
And Alton,
that's your kind of your size range.
And we talked about this last week. Alton Jones was throwing the G crack similar bait. It's a new one, but it's similar to what these things are. And he could have been easily throwing a 3.8 or a 4.8 or 5.8. You know, he could have been doing that easily too. So, but the big thing about these is the profile.
The profile.
It's a profile that scares a lot of people, but it's a bluegill profile, and it's an excellent profile for the spawn, especially. But I think even more so is when the bluegills go back on the bed, which is after the largemouth spawn, George.
Correctamundo.
So that happens like right after the largemouth spawn, and there's fry around. You know, those bluegills start to spawn, and they'll have spawning bed areas, Nick.
These baits really shine in the Northeast from now through the end of the spawn, and then they really shine through the beginning of the post spawn period.
Yeah,
because
that's all the way through.
It's the bluegill connection.
Yeah, and you can fish that bluegill bite all depending on where you go, all the way through June, because they're bedding. You know, they're bedding all the way through June.
And what we're focused on is the flipping aspect of it. So, you know, for example, you know, Dean Rojas was flipping his crawl and shad style bait today, which is about the size of the 90 gilly.
Yeah.
Between the 90 and the 110 gilly and the 3/8, the 3.8 G crack. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But the key to these baits is you flip them. You don't rig them. You don't rig them this way. You don't rig them on the tall side. You rig them on the flat side. Follow what I'm saying there, Nick? Yep. So my hook's going to go in. Okay. But I want to rig this up so we can see what we mean by this. This is a Mustad straight shank
grip pin,
flipping grip pin.
I like the grip pin for these types of baits because it grabs that big piece of plastic real nice.
And you know, you're rigging it on the side, right? You're rigging it on the side like that. You want it nice and straight, but the profile, the rig is this way.
And that's a 5.0 hook, George.
Yeah, I mean, on this small bait here,
probably go 4.0.
I would go even 3.0 on the 3.8. On the 5.8, I would definitely go 5.0. On the 130 gilly, I would go 5.0. On the 110 gilly, I would go 4.0. On the 90 gilly, I'd go 3.0. But you see what I mean by on the flat there, Nick? You don't rig it on the edge. You rig it on the flat. You can also rig these baits with a EWG. Okay? style bait, and the point will kind of be hidden in the fin, so to speak. But you flip these baits much the same way you would flip a beaver style bait or a creature style bait like a brush hog or even a jig. You're just flipping a big flat bluegill profile. And it is freaking deadly.
David's saying that he thinks it'd be best on a shaky head. I don't know about a shaky head because you just don't have enough gap in the hook. And I think you'll have a lot of lost fish on the.
Well, if you went to like a Magnum shaky head.
Well, yes, you'd have to go to.
But if you're flipping grass.
But even the Magnums, the hooks would be too big then, I think.
Yeah, if you're flipping grass, you want that bullet weight.
Yeah.
To get, if you're flipping clump grass or if you're fishing grass, if you're fishing open water.
Yeah.
Like these guys were fishing on this lake. I mean, if you wanted to rig it on a big Magnum shaky head, I would see no problem with that. But I would strongly encourage a Texas rig. Strongly encourage it. You're just going to back your weight down a little bit, but you're going to need a little more weight than you think on these bulky baits. I remember the first time when Ish Monroe made the Toro tube famous.
Oh, yeah.
Which was the 7-inch tube.
Yeah.
And he went down there on Lake Amistad and caught I don't know. All I know is I was on the water that weekend I had Toro tubes all over my boat. I got in a cut that had some spawning fish in it. Man, I'm like, oh! I got the Toro tube out. I rigged it up like on a 1/4 ounce flipping weight.
Yeah.
Flipped it in there and it floated like a bobber. It wouldn't even go under the water. So, when you're rigging up these bulky style baits, and I'm particularly talking about the 130/5/8 G crack, go ahead and start off with a 3/8 ounce weight. Just rig up a 3/8 ounce weight. Trust me on that.
Yeah.
Now, when you drop back to the 3.8, if you're open water, you can go ahead and you can rig that up with a 1/4 ounce weight. But if you're in grass, remember, you need this thing to get down through the grass. Mm-hmm. So, you're probably going to end up going to 3/8 anyways.
Yeah.
But I think the point that we're making here is this whole phenomenon on bluegill/sunfish profile flipping baits.
Yeah.
For big, oversized bass. And the G-Crack bellows gill and the gilly exemplify this perfectly.
Yeah. 2 questions for you, George. So one is for somebody that never used these before, for your hands there, how's the durability feel? And 2, with the power bait one, which is the gilly, would you hook that up the same way? It kind of looks a little bit different.
Yeah, you're gonna. Okay, great questions from cameraman Nick. So we're gonna do the gilly the exact same way. Okay, so we're gonna come in on the side. In other words, we're not gonna rig them on the top. Okay, like this. Okay. On the big one. Now, the small one, you can do that for bed fishing, but you're going to fish it on a drop shot rig. Okay? The small one, you can fish upright, nose hooked, but on a drop shot rig for bed fishing. We're not talking about that. We're talking about flipping, and we want to flip them on. We want to rig them on their side. So same thing, Nick, on the 130. Which is the proper profile for a lot of your big fish waters. 5.0 straight shank, 5.0 EWG Superline style, rigging them on the flat side. Again, just a simple Texas style rig. We are using a straight shank, mustad, 5.0 flipping hook, and whoops, I don't have my line tied on here. Right back through there. Nice and straight. I would even go as far as to kind of channel that out. and flipping this way. Okay. On a wide gap, same exact thing. But the key with the wide gap is you're doing what is a Tex posed rig. All that means is the point is laying exposed on the back of the bait. Like that. Point's laying right here. Okay. And then I'm going to simply skin it. Still flat. Okay. On the 130 size bait, these are 5.0 hooks. You could also do a 6.0 hook for that gilly. The 5.0 hook is perfect on that G-crack. And you can do the wide gap on the G-crack as well. Wide gap on the G-crack, same concept. Okay, Texas rig. Come back to the back of that hook, which is kind of easy because you're just going to go between like those two fins. There's a solid body in there. Kind of keep that measured distance that you have. Go between those two fins. Through that solid body. Out the back. And your bait, your hook will actually be tucked in behind a fin. Wide gap rigging, also a great option. How you do it? So profile is, bluegill, big. It's a big thing. It's happening. It's working. It's hot. It's producing. And we want to talk about it tonight.
Well, I'm really excited about it. I think it's something that a lot of guys look at and they go, "Golly bum, what is this thing?" But you got to realize, they're not just eating that because they're hungry. They eat it for for lots of reasons. They're getting them out of the way. There's a threat to their bed. It's so they're going to pound it for that. You have to be patient with them, I think, in the spawn because of the bite. They'll carry it off a few times, but eventually they'll get mad at it and eat it. But in that post-spawn bluegill bed fishing pattern where you're fishing the bluegill beds, they will freaking flat out eat that thing. And if you can find those beds and fish these baits around those beds, those fish are just outside the bedding areas, and they're ready for something to screw up. And these baits are excellently fished in those areas. It's a great bait to use for that. So you're going to be fishing these hard the next month and a half anyway, 2 months.
Tackle wise on these baits, your standard pitching and flipping rod, you're going to be, whatever you use to flip a creature or a jig or a beaver style bait on the bigger bait with the bigger hook. I definitely would not do anything under a 17 to a 20 line.
Yeah.
In a fluoro. And if I was in thicker cover and I was fishing braid, it would be, a minimum of 50.
Yeah.
To 65.
Yep.
Okay. And 3/8 ounce weight on the bigger bait. In open water on the smaller bait, you could go down to a quarter.
Yeah, and if you're in thick grass, you have to go to 1/2 ounce to get it down in there.
Yeah, and you're probably not going to encounter that right now, but you're correct.
Oh, the Potomac's got some heavy grass on it right now.
Yeah, you probably find a little there.
Yeah. Dave, I get what you're saying. Stand up. I would look at that Magnum shaky head from Strike King. It's got a big enough gap in there to get that, to cover that plastic and be able to get the hook set with all that plastic. So I get it, man. That's a great idea to get it to stand up. Is perfect. And one little thing George touched on there was the drop shot aspect of it. There was a few guys doing that around here in the spring, and we picked up on that. So you're going to have to drop shot, like with the rod that our boy GDP fishes with, which is a 7-foot medium heavy, and maybe even go to a bait caster and do some power shotting with it to be able to handle, because you're going to have to put that bigger hook in that bait no matter what to get to get it done, to get the bait kind of stuck in that fish. It might take a bigger 2-0 style hook, nose hook in it, with that bigger gap to do it. So you have to dress it up. But that was a great idea, putting that thing out there and drop shotting it on those shallow areas. I really like that technique.
On a bed.
Yeah, on a bed.
Question for both of you. When would you use a straight shank hook, and when would you use the EWG hook?
Well, my theory on that is the straight shank hook, I don't really mess with it much unless I'm literally in a tournament, because it's the most successful hookup ratio there is. We've talked about this on the show before. Snelling a straight shanked hook, it's lethal. It's a little more high maintenance. You go through a lot more baits, which as a tackle shop owner, I encourage. But you're re-rigging quite a bit. So on fun days, I spend most of my time with an EWG Superline style hook. And depending on the bait, I prefer that for even on tournament days. But most of the time, when the money's on the line, it's a straight shank flipping hook, because it's a bad boy. On a straight old fashioned flipping, good old fashioned flipping bite. And these I think it's really important to understand that these gill profiles, we're discussing these as flipping baits. And I think it's really important to understand that, what that fish is seeing is that profile. They're not rationalizing and thinking the process through. It's just a familiar profile. Boom.
Yeah.
And that's what has been really effective with these profile baits for the last couple of years, to the point of which this gilly came on the market, right?
Yeah, the G crack on a Chris Qin for Carolina rig options. I think the G crack's the way to go. The 3.8 G crack would be a great Carolina rigging bait. I really do, man. I think there's so much potential with that the G crack gills that is just untapped, and a lot of people just aren't fishing them. But be a great Carolina rigging bait, be a great ball and chain bait, for throwing it on a wobble head type of deal. There's a lot of things I think you can do with it. But try it out on everything. It's new. It's new to a lot of us. So you're going to have to go through your rotation and some of the things that you like to do, put it on there, check it out, see what it does. You got a nice reservoir that you fish, and it's something maybe they haven't seen. Might be a great Carolina rigging bait. So absolutely.
And another thing that they were doing down in Florida, I know a couple years ago, maybe last year, can't remember, but they were using it on a Tokyo rig.
Yeah.
And that was another rig that was big on.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. That's a great thing there, Nick. Flipping the grass with a Tokyo rig. I mean, come on, that's going to be deadly.
Well, and it's interesting Nick brings that up, because kind of our next little trend.
Look at that. Carl Bunch is in the house. How you doing, Carl? Good to see you, buddy. I've been seeing a lot of you lately around. Good to have you fishing hard again. That's awesome, bro.
So to go along with this theme of trends, all right, Nick brought up the Tokyo rig with the G crack, that whole bluegill profile. Great way to do business. A similar rig, and I swear to God, I can't get it out of the package. A similar rig is made by Gamakatsu, and it's called the Geica rig. And wow,
Jerry,
I'll get it out of the package.
we have been extremely busy here at the store. You've been trying to call the last 2 days and going right straight to voicemail. We had 3 lines here, man, and they've been lit up the last couple of days. Shoot us an email. You can go to info@sfttackle.com or sales@sfttackle.com. You can shoot us an email. We'll answer your email right away. We have somebody always looking at that. Our phones have just been ringing off the hook, and we apologize for that, bro.
Got it, Nick. First tip on this rig: take your Geica rigs out of the packaging before you go out on the water. Because I just had to use a 7-inch folding knife, which is probably illegal in New York and New Jersey. And
that is horrible. I don't understand their packaging, man. It's crazy.
But we have been doing this now for a little bit with fat-bodied swim baits. And what you call it, Nick?
Why do you go for the pink one every time?
Tokyo rig.
Why can't you get like a shad color that we can mix in with all the pinks that we have now that you ruin all these packs all the time?
Tokyo rig. There's another one out there, but this is the Geica rig, and this has been a trend in fishing fat-bodied swim baits. Not necessarily for bedding fish, or should I say just for bedding fish, but for dragging swim baits through thick, gnarly, nasty cover. And, you can change this weight to whatever weight you want. I mean, you can go to an ounce, and you just dragging that thing on the bottom, getting that belly roll, getting that tail wobble. And this is like another trend that we really wanted to highlight when we were kind of talking through flipping and trends and things of that nature. So that's you can use a Tokyo rig, you can use a Geica rig, you can make your own rig. It's really not that hard to do. And you can run anything from a 3.8 to a 5.8, 4.8, whatever 0.8.
And it's funny. All these rigs that we have out there, people will probably go, well, why do I need to throw that? Let's just throw the same old rigs. You got a lot of fishing pressure out there, and what guys are finding
anymore, it's crazy.
Yeah, and these little differences, like the Geica rig, the Tokyo rig, or whatever, you're getting more bites that you might have not have got with another rig that we've always used. It's just the way it is.
Not only that, with this swim bait rig, you're presenting that swim bait into a form of cover that swim bait generally has not been presented to.
Yeah.
Yes, you can Texas rig it with a wide gap hook and a pegged or screwed in bullet weight, and that works great.
Yeah, absolutely.
But this allows you to fish slow under a tougher bite scenario, maintain a bottom contact in a finessey type of a way, and just kind of real finessey kind of put that swim bait right there. And it is working.
Yeah. John Warrick, how you doing, buddy? John has been going through some medical stuff, and he's fighting his freaking tail end off right now against cancer. And he just started another treatment series, which really puts him down hard. But the 2 weeks prior to that, he was feeling super good. So he was out whacking the hell out of giant smallies. I mean, like, this kid is crushing it, and he's a true fighter, and we're all behind you, Johnny. Keep it up, man.
You bet, John.
Keep it up, brother. We're all behind you there.
That's a fact.
So, the other thing, George, that we wanted to discuss a little bit was you know, and I think this is a good time to do it because we have all these piles of tackle now. And, you know, you have a box for this, a box for that. You got all this tackle, and, you know, tackle organization is a friggin' problem. It's an absolute problem with not with me, because I got George. You know, I got tackle man over here, so he organizes all my stuff all the time. But it's and he works at it all the time. It's a constant effort to keep your tackle, you know, stocked, keep your tackle organized, know what you're running out of, know what you got too much of.
Well, the problem is when you're, you know, and I'm sure the majority of you guys viewing and gals can relate. You're all hardcore fishermen. You've expanded out your techniques, your tactics constantly, never ending. And, you know, you got a lot of tackle, and
Tons.
you're, you know, a day on the water is very important. It's precious. It's hard to come by in this day and age of just, you know, you got your foot to the floor against the rev limiter every day, trying to, you know, get through life. And when you get that day to fish, you know, the last thing you want to do is try to get a size 2.0, a 3.0 Geica rig out of a pack. Okay. You want to be rocking and rolling. So, you know, tackle storage is an issue, and there's great solutions that as fishermen we've come up with. And, you know, one of the things we wanted to do tonight was we wanted to highlight a couple of, you know, new twists on an old situation. Or if you're a co-angler or a rider, you're going with your buddies, or if you're a boater and you jump in with some of your other buddies. I know a lot of you can relate to this. You know, you worked all week and your buddy wants to take his boat tomorrow, and you get home from work, and the last thing you want to do is go out and rip your boat apart and put together a little away bag. You're tired, you know, you got the wife wants to have dinner, you know, the kids want to play, whatever. So having a little, you know, go bag is not a bad idea. And there's some really awesome updated solutions to that. What do you got, Nick?
Oh, I was just gonna say, you don't want to bring a bag like Mike usually does, right? What do you call that, Mike?
Texas tackle bag.
There you go.
That's embarrassing.
It is. It's terrible.
That's embarrassing.
It's
So
terrible.
So, you know, one of the big things out there is the Bass Mafia came out with that money bag, and it just changed. For me, it changed the way I organize baits. So I'll take my go-to baits, and I will organize them by type in a money bag. What do I mean by that? I have a Senko money bag. On my riverboat, I have, you know, a tube money bag. I don't have one tube money bag. I have a small tube money bag and a big tube money bag. And so on and so forth. You get the point. And money bags are great, but, you know, nothing lasts forever. And, you know, the competition is always out there trying to jack somebody up. So I got another bag I want to show you. Let me reach back here and grab it without ripping my mic stand down. I got it on wheels. So this is a Spro copy of a money bag.
A little bit more reinforced there.
Yeah. You know, a couple things I like about it is it's got a really nice zipper on it and the bag's reinforced. And one of the models has pleated bottom in it. So it's a little wider. Okay. And, you know, it's kind of like the concept of, let's say, you know, we're going to put our gillies in there, you know, and then you can just flip through them, right? If you're a big gilly guy, or you're,
well, a nice thing
whatever.
about bags like that and the money bag, is you can really specialize each bag. You know, you can really, and if they don't take up any room whatsoever, you can just stick them right in your rod locker, or, you know, your lockers where you have your stuff, and you can just lay them in there, and you can really organize it and flip right through it. No problem at all.
Well, here's a little bag.
Yeah.
You know, so this is a little Daiwa bag. Bass Mafia has a bag like this, and Spro has a bag like this. And, you know, talking about riding with your buddy, you know, I take this little bag right here and I'll throw every spinner bait and buzz bait that I'm going to take in my go kit in that bag. Just a thought.
Yeah.
So, you know, I've been wanting for show after show after show to highlight some tackle storage stuff. And, you know, we always run out of time and you know, boom.
All right, I got a question for you guys with these bags. I really like the idea of these bags. Everybody I see is going to them.
Yeah.
Now,
There's
George,
a little Spro bag.
George, you said you have two bags, and I know you guys. I've seen your two bags. There's all different kinds of colors. Now, this might be a dumb question, but have you guys come up with a system when you see a color getting low at the course of the day? Because you can forget real quick. You know, you throw that bag back in there, and next time you go out, they're not replenished.
Yeah.
I make a note on my phone.
Okay.
Because if I make a note on a piece of paper, then I'll forget the note. But, you know, our phones are attached to our hips. So I make a note on my phone. And it's not as critical, you know, as it used to be when Mike and I were particularly Mike, and we're guiding a lot. It was kind of important to have the right bait in the boat. You know, you have a client paying you top dollar to go catch fish, and you're like, so it was a lot more important. But yeah, I just make a note on my phone, you know, this bait, that bait, but having it broken down by those bags, it's in one spot.
Mhm.
It's not in multiple locations, you know. Like if you need a pearl white fluke and you go to your fluke bag and it's not in there, there's no need to rip your boat apart because it's nowhere else.
The other thing that's really nice about those bags is, you remember when we would always use the boxes and you put all your plastic in those boxes? And
Yeah.
I'm not against it. I still do it,
Yeah.
but I want to go to these bags. A lot of times you'd get a lot of moisture in those boxes.
Well, the salted plastics would draw the moisture,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
I really like to keep the baits in the bags.
Right.
Well, the
I'm
thing,
a big proponent on that.
you know, plus sometimes, you know, you're fishing along and you get into one of them boxes that has some old school stuff in it. You don't know what color it is. You start whacking some fish on it. You're like, what was that? Well, if it's in the bag, you know, you got that information right there. Or like me, you know, George, you know, you asked, I have a photographic memory. So when I look at my bags and I'm running out, it's right there, locked in. But boom, like that. I come to work and I say, George, this is what we need.
George, is that true?
Lock it right in. So,
Next.
so the hard boxes, Nick, and here's the point about the hard boxes.
This is sad.
Here's the point about the hard boxes. They are your hard bait boxes. So
10-4.
they're your shallow diving crankbait box, your medium diving crankbait box, you know, your deep divers. You go through that progression. You got a top water box, poppers. You got a top water box, walking baits. You have,
We kind of get it.
jerk bait boxes. You know what I'm saying? No, I'm letting guys know how they could label their stuff up, you know, the way I label my stuff up. You got the jerk bait boxes. You got one or two of those, you know, in there. And maybe three. I think we're up to 3 boxes of jerk bait. We're sick, man. There's like 8 jerk baits in one compartment, just shoved down in there, and every one of them sock full. I think I got 3 or 4 3700s jack full of them things.
So you're saying you like jerk baits?
Love them. Plus, I just got 2 more customs, custom painters.
All right.
And
It's like pornography over here.
yeah,
Man.
I love it, man. So, you know, you always add to that, and you can always see them, and you got label them on each end, and in case you're in a rush and you put it in the slot upside down, which I did one time in George's boat. Not a good thing.
Problem.
Not a good thing. And, you know, but so I label on both
My
sides.
stuff doesn't go upside down.
And you know, so you know, that's what we do with the hard boxes now more so than ever.
Well,
and these bags have really overtook organizing stuff. Now,
You need to also
don't forget Ned rigs.
you need to also consider the orientation of the box.
Yeah.
For example, a 3600 size box, and I probably won't be able to find one. Let's see. There we go. Hold up. So a 3600 size box, the partitions go this way. Okay, so the box needs to go in your boat or in your bag this way. A 3700 style box, the partitions go this way. So the box goes in like this. That's why the 3600 bags are, if you hold up one of each of those, Mike, the 3600 bag is always smaller. Well, he picked up the two small ones, but
That's what you wanted.
let me grab a big one here.
I'll get the big one. Just stand up there.
Those are 3600s.
You said you wanted to see the 3600 bags.
So these boxes go this way.
And then you got the big bag.
The 3700 boxes are oriented this way. And, you need to know that. You need to understand that. Another thing I wanted to highlight was for the bank angler, we meet a ton of hardcore bank anglers, and we meet a ton of hardcore non-boaters. And the big thing now is backpacks. So we have, Shimano redid their Black Moon packs. This is a front loader. So the boxes are in the front of the bag. And then you get in there like that. Okay, you zip that down. You zip that down. You fold that down. There's a framework in there. And the concept of the hard boxes, is you can have as many of these as you want at home, geared up for different species. And then you make that adjustment, as you go. You don't take the thing about organizing in boxes and bags. You don't take everything you own. You take what you need. And then the other bag that Shimano makes is the top loader, which, as you can see by the name, zips from the top, and it has the bigger boxes in it. Okay? Then Daiwa also got in the backpack game a couple years ago, and they just redid theirs. Theirs is called the Prime Camo. Their pack is also awesome. So for you bank guys, for you co-anglers, for you riders, tackle bags, tackle backpacks have evolved to the nth degree. Check out the Shimano Black Moon, the Daiwa tackle bags and tackle boxes, the Prime, the PRYM camo, the Prime. Check out the wide variety of zip style bags from Bass Mafia, from Spro, from Daiwa, all different shapes and sizes. I mean, we probably have 5 sizes, 3 to 5 sizes per company.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And for God's sakes, people, get organized. Get yourself organized. There's no reason for it. You got all these easy ways of doing it now.
And George, so with hard baits,
additions.
You guys were talking about hard baits, and one of the biggest things we worry about is what?
Rusted
hooks.
Oh yeah,
right,
for sure.
What do you think, George?
I don't know what's in there. You probably shouldn't go through airport security with one of those tabs, but that does not rust. You put that in your boxes, you have no rust.
Yeah.
I don't know what's in there. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's a whole line of I think that's Flambeau. Is that Flambeau?
Oh, there's
Yes.
There's a whole line of Flambeau boxes that offer that built right in there. And then Plano came out with a whole line it's actually baked right into the plastic.
same thing with Flambeau.
No, Flambeau's it's in
The tabs.
the tabs.
They also have it in the plastic. The Max, the Z Max series.
The smoke colored ones.
Yeah.
And then the Plano just came out with one that's all foggy looking thing. You know, that's in the plastic itself. Yeah. So it's like, you know,
there's all kinds.
But you know, you make these investments. You know what I mean? Like me and George were out on Sunday, smallmouth fishing up on the Susquehanna River. And of course, you know, every time me and George go fishing, there's some kind of inclement weather. Well, this time it wasn't the wind, but it was the rain. So it started raining pretty much right after we launched the boat. And it was on and off. And, you know, you're in and out of your hatch and you're digging a bait out and you're opening your box up and it rains inside there. If you don't come home and open all your stuff up, if you know, it's going to rust your hooks. This is going to help prevent that. It's going to, you know, if you forget to do it or whatever, or that moisture, like you're talking about, builds up in there.
It's a big deal.
It just totally saves all your stuff. It's just every year I remember, you know, you put your boat away for 3 or 4 months, you know, over the winter and you
maybe you do.
Well, whatever it is now for us, it's for us. What was it this year? 2 months. About.
Yeah. Well,
anyway,
yeah,
you put it away and then all of a sudden you get, and it was, for me, it was jig heads. I mean, I had a hell of a time with jig heads, always rusting the points on them, you know, and it was like, they have no confidence in those jig heads anymore. You had to sharpen them. And it was just like this big thing. You were throwing jig heads away. Well, once this stuff came out, it eliminated all that. I mean, I throw it right in a big box, eliminated all that problem. And
those things are great.
I wasn't throwing away money. So it's just a great thing to check out.
I got another question for you guys. And this is great because George, you fished a lot of tournaments as a boater, and Mike, you have too, but you've also fished a lot as the co.
Yeah.
And very successful.
I'm a very famous co-angler.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. You showed all these great organization boxes and backpacks. As a co-angler who's looking to get into being a co-angler in the BFL,
yeah,
whatever, what is appropriate?
Acceptable.
Yes.
That's a greatest question ever, because, you know, as a boater, because I did both sides, as a boater, you're sitting there and all of a sudden you see this guy coming down over the hill. You're saying, please, dear God, hopefully this is not him.
He's got a Sherpa with him.
Yeah. He's got like, you know, this freaking thing. He's dragging stuff. He's got his wife next to him, you know, coming down over the hill. And you're like, please, dear God, this is not Johnny. I know this is not John. I know this is not John. So, you know, acceptable behavior for me always was, you know, 5 rods. You know, if you were kind of really organized with your rods, you might get 6, maybe 7 in there if you kept them nice and organized. And then 1 tackle bag, and then a little duffel bag that you put your rain gear in. If it was threatening rain, you would bring that duffel bag along, and then you could shove your lunch in there, your waters and stuff that you would throw in their cooler eventually. And then I always showed up with a bag of ice, you know, to share with my boater. So, but that's it. You know, 1 tackle bag that, you know, my tackle bags were, you know, like that. And I had, you know, enough of those boxes that I could, you know, I didn't have these cool bags now when I was doing a lot of my co-angler stuff, but I had it all organized in a bag, and we, you know, jumped from boat to boat to boat, you know, over the years. And I stuck it up underneath the console, and it was in my space. I never had it out in anybody else's space. You know, that's acceptable. Showing up with 2 tackle bags, 10 rods, you know, another bag for your other stuff, a scale,
good.
It just doesn't work. You know, it doesn't work. It's not good for anybody. You can't get around the boat, and it shows frustration by the end of the day. And at the end of the day, you know, when you're fishing with these guys, you're trying to make relationships with them. You're trying to make a new friend. You're trying to have a contact for wherever that guy fishes. You know, that's the greatest thing about this sport, is you make these great friendships. George and I talk about it all the time. these guys that we have friendships with
for decades,
for 25, 30 years. We just met these guys tournament fishing, and
well, there's a couple we don't have friendships with.
Well, yeah, and there were those guys. There was those guys that would get on your boat and be a total, do exactly this, and so
there you go.
We should keep, as co-anglers, we should keep all of our boaters in mind. Now, on the other hand, oh, and then at the end of the day, you slick them over a few, not just 120 anymore. You send over 4 $20 bills or even 5 $20 bills over to your man, because this is a error that's different. You can't go around doing $20 rider's fees anymore. Forget about it. The $20 rider's fee is for chumps.
Well,
okay.
The ramp fee's $10.
Yeah.
Or 20.
Well, you pay the ramp fee.
You
automatically pay the ramp fee.
A big day on big water could be 30, 40 gallons of gas.
Yeah.
That's $140, $150.
But even as a rider,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, but even as a co-angler, which I did a lot of co-angler stuff, you got to figure about this. You don't have the expense of the boat. You don't have the expense of pulling the thing down there. You don't have the charging and all the freaking maintenance that goes on these things every night after the tournament, and working on your boat and making sure it's right, and the oil and opening, fueling up in the morning and all this stuff. You don't have that. You walk down to the boat ramp and you fish. You think about how much you fish, really, as a co-angler. You fish in tournaments 8 to 12 times a year. And you're going to give that man between $50 and $100. It's cheap. That's cheap fishing. And you're riding $100,000 boats, and you're out there on water, and that's the cost of being a co-angler. And it's cheap for those guys. But I'm telling you, that dude sitting in the driver's seat, he's going to be a friend of yours. You're going to have a great relationship with him. You're going to come off the water. You're going to be high-fiving. You're going to be talking on a telephone for years to come, sharing information, coming up with new bodies of water, doing all this stuff. This is for me, a lifelong problem that I hear about, is this co-angler stuff. So but it's also the boater. The boater has to be courteous and kind, and realize that, listen, this is what the tournament is. I have to take a co-angler. If you don't like taking co-anglers, get the hell out. Don't sign up for the friggin' tournament. So now you got to be able to say, I'm going to treat that man respectfully.
Well, you should.
You should treat that man respectfully, and
it's expected.
You should absolutely work with that man, and you should or woman, because there's a lot of women in this sport now, but you got to work with that person as much as he has to work with you. And if you don't like it, then go become a freaking elite angler where they don't have co-anglers anymore.
Shout out to Trudy Noel.
Trudy. Cheers.
I drew her in a Potomac tournament, and I'll tell you what,
she's a stick.
She was the consummate co-angler, and we had a living hell ride back at the end of the day. And
it's cool as hell.
What a pro. So that's that. You have to understand that too, as you're going into it as a co-angler, is you might be getting yourself into some situations boat ride wise. That particular day, Trudy's about this big, man. I thought we were going to have to put some seatbelts on her, man. She was catching air. Mike, you got us off track there with your
I was on
co-angler.
A rant. I was on a rant.
You went down the wormhole.
But see, Nick doesn't know me.
One of the things I wanted to add to Nick's point, and as a co-angler, which I've never fished as a co-angler, but
yeah, you have.
Not in the bigger tournaments.
Yeah, you have.
Have I?
Elite Series.
Yeah, true. True.
Where the boater treated you like shit.
Well, not all of them.
No, but you had
I had some good. I had cash check.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But anyways, I want to make my point. My point is, as a co-angler, you're carrying your tackle, you're carrying your little duffel bag with your rain gear and your drinks and your Vienna sausages and whatnot. You got your rods, and you may not be able to park real close to where you're meeting your pro, whatever. Those backpack setups, dude.
Yeah.
Go, you know? So
You got a free hand then, you know, to carry.
there's a lot to think about in this whole tackle storage situation. And we just wanted, we've been really anxious to highlight a few things.
Yep.
And, you
Yep.
know, we have a few more things we have a few more, couple tackle items we promised we would review tonight. The new Bantam.
Let's get on that Bantam right now, George. Let's get on that thing.
And I think our cameraman Nick is poised and ready for something here. He's got his microphone all pointed at me.
Well, that's right, because
It's like you took the safety off that microphone.
Running
man.
this camera the whole time, I've been staring at that reel.
Yeah.
And I couldn't wait for you to start talking about it.
We are going to talk about
Let's go.
The new Bantam.
Let's go.
Right on, Brody. This is the coolest damn reel ever.
Well,
you know, I'm a giant fan of the new, now discontinued Bantam reel, which we have 3 left at 15% off if anybody's looking for them.
Well, this is pretty much the same reel.
Yeah.
With some tweaks.
Exactly. So it's better. It's a better version, but I absolutely thought the original Bantam was the greatest reel ever. So I can't wait to get one of these.
Bad to the bone, bro.
Yeah.
So the Bantam, the thing you got to understand about the Bantam, and actually the new Metanium also, last year's Metanium, they are what they call a core solid body. So, you know,
solid body.
I took this bearing carrier out of the
huge deal
palm plate to show you, like, this whole body, okay, is one piece. There's no side plate here. Okay, this bearing carrier obviously has to come out so that you can adjust your braking system, the SVS Infinity braking system. You know, for example, right now we have 4 brakes on, 2 brakes locked off. These reels are very, very efficient casting reels. I would strongly suggest, if you have any casting experience whatsoever, to go 3 and 3. What these brakes are rubbing against, so this little segment right here, this ought to be fun, Nick. All right, let's look at this brake block right here. Okay. So when I cast, the centrifugal force of casting rotates that out. See how this one here is standing up? This one here is rotated out. I can actually move it here.
You're terrible at this. Up and it's down. So what
happens is this little knuckle in here,
the inside part of that
little knuckle right here, is going to rub against this side. This I call it a wear surface. That little chamfered surface right there. Okay. Now, what's cool about this is this piece here can be moved in closer for more braking. So once I set, let's say 3 and 3, okay, and I close this down like that. Okay, and now I'm gonna cam this down. This little side lever here. That locks that in. It's a big, giant, heavy-duty thread. So now I have no movement. I can be wrenching on this thing. Nothing's torquing. Nothing's moving. And now I can quickly adjust that wear surface in and out. In for more braking, out for less. They have conveniently written minimum and maximum on there. So that's kind of the basis of a core solid body, which you'll find on Bantam and Metanium. Metanium, the big difference between the two is Metanium is a magnesium body, which is a lighter weight. It's basically magnesium translates in Japanese to add $100. That's the rough translation. So the big difference in Bantam A, this is the new reel's called the A, is two things. The spool. Okay. So this is the MGL3 spool. Okay. This is the lightest, fastest, most high performance spool that Shimano offers. You'll find the MGL3 spool on all the real high end reels. Super light, which means, very low startup inertia, very efficient casting, very efficient flipping.
Very accurate.
Yeah, good stuff. The other thing that is a little harder to explain is the infinity drive.
Yeah.
So the last thing that we had a hard time explaining years ago was the pinion gear being reinforced with two bearings, which was called X-ship, which prevented the pinion gear from moving. Okay. So the pinion gear is what engages with the spool. So when you turn the handle, you're turning your drive gear. Okay. The drive gear has teeth on the outside edge of it. It engages with the pinion gear. The drive gear turns the pinion gear, which is connected to the spool, which turns the spool, right? Pretty simple.
Engineering 101.
So X-ship the pinion gear sits in here. X-ship put a bearing up against this edge of the pinion gear and out on this end of the pinion gear to prevent the pinion gear from torquing and binding. And that's still that way on Infinity Drive, but the bearing is now on this side of the gear teeth of the pinion gear. So it's even spread out even farther in its stance. Okay, so now and the pinion gear is kind of locked into the spool shaft. So before you would have the little T-bar and the pinion gear would match up with that. Now it's more of a flat surface that's locked together. So now you have virtually no possible way to torque that pinion gear, bind it. This body's not flexing. This area where this pinion gear is supported, it's not flexing. This is all, and that is the big difference.
This is a reel you'll literally buy once and you'll have it.
And the deal is forever. The price did not change.
Yeah, got all this for nothing.
You got MG3 spool and Infinity Drive.
Yeah. No
additional fee. And we're really excited about it because it's a performance precision piece at $349.99.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
They didn't shave any weight off of it at all, or is it?
It's kind of weird on the weight. People get bogged down on the weight, and I'm going to give you some bogged down.
What up, GDP?
I'm going to give you some bogged down stats. So the reel comes in a 6.2 to 1 ratio, and that model weighs 7.6 ounces. Then it comes in a 7 to 1 ratio, and that model weighs 7.8 ounces. And then it comes in an 8 to 1 ratio, and that model weighs 7.9 ounces. And if the difference between 7.6 ounces and the 7.9 ounces is meaningful to you, then I'm afraid we can't be friends. In other words, it's pretty light for a solid body.
Well, they got to keep the gears cool, so they put some cooling mechanisms in there or something, because maybe it's that. I don't know.
It's not. Calm down.
What do you think, Greg DePalma?
So that is your Bantam breakdown that we are so happy to have in stock now. So you know what? We got a pretty good chunk of them in stock. I'd get on that sfttackle.com and get aggressive. And you know what? one of them reels is more than enough for a buy into the Summer Slam.
You got to get it.
And maybe you win some big coin and,
I'll tell you what, you're talking about SummerSlam and GDP's on there right now. And we talked about tournament talk, but GDP got a top 5 over the weekend too.
Oh yeah.
Flats. And I'm telling you,
yeah, they had a big bag.
He put a nice video out there for us. He knows it's going to be fire down there.
Oh yeah.
On that SummerSlam. So
yeah,
get in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's game on.
That's right.
Game on.
Game on. It's coming down to the wire, and it's going to be prime conditions.
Yep.
Prime conditions.
Well, I just got to tell you that one of my favorite reel is the Bantam. It's hands down my favorite reel. The old Bantam. I cannot wait to get my hands on the new one, to see what difference. But even that old one, you're not gonna, So the guys like me and St. Cress, he has the Bantam on a 894 NRX. I mean, that's just sexy saying that. Come on. And
I like that.
Yeah, and that is a killer. But it's a reel that you're going to have for year after year after year. The durability, you're just not going to have to replace this reel forever. I mean, it's just not going to gear out on you. It's not going to get all weird. You're going to have it for a long time. So yeah, it's a little bit of investment up front. But even at $349, that's cheap.
And Mike, what's the gear ratio on that? I didn't
well, you have 3 gear ratios. You have and the way they're doing Shimano, for everybody that doesn't understand, if it just says Bantam, okay, it's the 6 2-to-1 or 6-3 on. I think the 70s maybe be a little different, but it's it's the lower gear ratio. If it says Bantam HG
7-1,
then that is a 7-to-1 gear ratio. And if it says Bantam XG
8-to-1.
Okay. Now, the other thing that people question us on is the ending part of this. The L, the A, the B, the different letters. Well, that's just all that has to do is the series of the reel, the year class of the reel, if you would. So that's where you get all those other letters in there. But the ones that we're worried about is whether it's a Bantam HG, or a Bantam XG, because that gets us the gear ratios that we're looking for.
Nice.
Yeah. It's good stuff.
Yeah. Well, I have people ask us all the time. It's kind of confusing. They don't even put it on the box.
It is confusing.
They don't even put it on the box, Nick.
And you got
it's not written on the box.
Yeah.
And you're easily confused.
People get it in the mail and they're like, what the hell's this?
Hey, I wanted to tell you guys something.
Not in the box.
So over the weekend, actually last show, so last week, I left here with a bottle of something.
Okay? Whoa!
And so this past weekend, I'm on the Upper Bay. Okay.
You better get you some.
And I think I just told everybody about the crankbait.
Yeah.
And then I followed it up.
Yeah.
With a little bit of shaky head. And I just so happened to go, you know what? Let's give this stuff a try.
Right.
Hey, I caught a lot of fish. That's all I can tell you.
Well,
I love the smell of bait fuel in the morning.
George and I, Nick, to follow your story up on Sunday, Saturday night, I grabbed a bottle and threw it in my Texas tackle bag. Okay. And you think I'm shitting? You're in the boat.
I was in the boat. The whole underneath the seat of the boat is full of every week's Texas tackle bag.
Yeah. So I have it in a Texas tackle bag. I get to the river, I'm fishing, and all of a sudden it hits me. Oh my God, I got to use the bait fuel. So I start taking my tube and shoving that little opening in there and down inside the tube, right? Little squirt down inside there. Out.
He was hang meat.
I don't know if it was, coincidental that we came on the spot, or what was going on. But for me, George was getting bites on a swim bait, but I wasn't getting bites on tubes. So I just all of a sudden started getting these bites.
It went down.
Today, I had a guy call me up, true story, and ordered 5 bottles of this stuff.
He's going to do some marinating.
And what he's going to do is give it to his friends because he had an unbelievable experience with it. What I don't understand is it doesn't smell like anything.
We're getting a lot of feedback on it.
Yeah. There's no smell to it.
There's no odor at all.
It's a stimulant.
It's a stimulant, and it's cool because if you spill it or whatever, you don't even know.
But you know, it's funny, guys, when you talk about anything, that doesn't tell you much. But when you literally have it in the shop and it's gone in a week, that tells you everything
Well,
you need to know.
And I think
60 bottles in a week.
I think you can relate on the it's a sensory thing, and not a smell, but you're picking. It's like when you fish a long day. You know, like last week we fished long day. It was raining all day. It was pouring at the end of the day. We pulled off the river late.
Yeah.
I couldn't smell them chicken wings, but they had a force on me. And I think that's kind of like bait fuel. You know, like I was driving down the road doing like 75 miles an hour in a downpour, thinking about those chicken wings. And I just feel I feel that's what bait fuel does to a tube.
It does. Well, to be honest, though, we got on the water at 8 o'clock in the morning, and George sent me into the sheets before we got to the river and said, hey, pick us up something. So I get us to 2 coffees. I usually get egg sandwiches, but I didn't want to wait in line. So I was like, screw that. I got a bag of peanuts and a bag of trail mix. Now, I'm talking about those little slim.
The wings were better.
The little things. So I think the wing thing really got to him because it's like 5 o'clock now, and he's freezing as normal.
Not freezing. Get rid of this jackass.
And you know, it
I wasn't freezing.
And so anyway, it was time to go, and and both of us were starving to death, you know, because we had a pack of peanuts each.
It was like bait fuel, man.
And this
how bait fuel works.
So it has to be like that. It's a sensory.
Well, I'm just trying to.
It's a sensory thing.
It's an analogy.
It is.
You know,
it's a great analogy.
Like we rolled through Harrisburg, heading for the wings, just like those bass were rolling through those brush piles, heading for those tubes.
Yeah.
And none of us could smell anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
One thing I thought was really cool when I did use the bait fuel was I've used a lot of other scents, and you get it on your fingers.
Yeah.
And you know, it smells. I mean,
Yeah.
It's got a smell to it.
Yeah.
That stuff there didn't matter.
No.
Because I didn't smell anything.
No, you get it all over you.
Well, we did get one reading back from a customer to where his coffee scented Strike King baits were being affected by the bait fuel.
Oh, right.
They were, I mean, they still caught fish.
Yeah, they got sticky.
But they were kind of like
reacted.
So
to
you
it.
may
try.
You may want to be careful before you marinate.
Yeah, try.
You may not want to just take a bag of whatever and marinate. Now, one of the guys that works here, Mikey Poole, he marinated a bunch of Z-Man stuff. It has no effect on Z-Man.
Yeah.
He's been marinating Z-Man like it's going out of style.
Yeah.
So, you know, maybe exercise a little bit of caution before you get your bait fuel and just marinate every freaking pack of bait you have.
Well, do a test pack, you know,
You
like 3 or 4 baits in a.
You may have and it
Ziploc.
may not be a deal with that coffee, but that guy's bait, he said, as the day went on, because he had applied over and over again, he said that bait was getting real tacky
and sticky.
So that's a bait fuel update.
Might have made it better for him. I don't know. We're still going to mess with it because George didn't use it at all.
I don't need scent.
And I don't know what the count was. We never did count.
I had to beat you. I always do.
See, I was waiting for you. See how I waited? You see how I waited?
Hey, this is
wanted to see. I wanted to see where you were going to go with that.
This is really off base. But George, you said that's the bait fuel update. You guys caught a lot of fishes over the weekend.
We
did.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
What's the update with you guys and your electronics? How's that going?
Well,
it's going good.
So George's boat is different than my boat. My boat, I still have a slight issue that I have to get right. It's working great, but I got to do a power thing.
Power modification.
This power thing, Nick, is everything, and we talked about it on here many times. And even last week we talked with Drew Cook, and he was like, dude, if you don't have your power right, you are missing the boat.
Don't even put them on your boat.
Don't even stick them on your boat because it's totally not what you're supposed to see. So my boat isn't quite right. I have to make an adjustment, and when we're supposed to be doing those adjustments, we're like going fishing. But it's still, we learned a lot with it, and it's really good, and it's really close, right, George?
It is.
It's
really very good.
It's real close, but
it's not perfect.
I think the bottom reading that we're getting is affected a little bit by this power issue. But the electronics themselves, the Garmin 10-inch unit is spectacular. Anybody can run it.
That GT56 transducer,
Mike can run it. I can run it, because I'm a simpleton when it comes to this stuff. I can turn it on. It shows me what I want to look at. No, I go to the next one. No, don't go to. Yeah, that's what I want to see. Push the button, and it's easy to do. So that thing, the side imaging is, like we said on that, is the best side imaging I've ever used. Because it's updated.
It's pretty bad to the bone.
It's you can see like pebbles on the bottom.
Yeah, it's
the
crazy.
down imaging is fantastic. So that part of it is great. George's boat, we didn't get to use it yet this year. We're going to use it Sunday. The 360 would not live without that freaking thing. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Once you figure it out and what you're doing with it, it's absolutely unbelievable. Really easy learning curve, not that big of a deal. Couple adjustments. George worked with a lot. He talked to people. He got it dialed in real good. And then on his boat, the forward facing sonar, you can see it all. It's really cool. So
it's good stuff.
Yeah. If I was going to buy one myself, personal, if you were voting, because I asked Drew Cook last week, what if he was going to pick one, what would he pick? He picked forward facing. I picked 360 if I had to buy one. And George picks.
I don't have to buy one.
That's the question, though.
Forward.
You would buy forward.
Yeah.
No, I would buy 360 because it just gives you too much information that's easy to use. And
I can scan my scope and pick up the cover.
Yeah.
But the 360 is showing it all simultaneously.
Okay, but here's the deal. This is my take on it, Nick. It's very different. The more you think about that, the less you think about fishing. You understand what I'm saying? So with the 360, all you have to do is glance down. You don't have to steer and look down and do all this. You just glance down. You're seeing the stuff. You're visualizing the nature and what's going on with nature, the movement of fish, the little splash over here, the little jump of fish over here. You're seeing all that stuff. That's giving you information to catch more fish. And all you have to do is glance down for 360. You don't have to steer. You don't have to do more stuff with your feet. You don't have to stand on one foot where you're putting pain on your back foot and you're taking away from your concentration. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
You're fishing more. You're fishing more. You're fishing more awake.
I agree with you. If I had to pick one, it would definitely be the 360. But I will say this. Anybody out there that believes that if you have forward-facing sonar or 360, that you're just automatically going to catch more fish than the average person, I think you're definitely wrong, because they take such a learning curve that if you're willing to put the time in for that learning curve, you've earned those fish that you're catching. That's my thoughts on that.
Yeah. We had a guy in today from a lake, a mountain lake. Okay. Clear water, super clear water, mountain lake. And he's catching all of his fish on forward facing sonar, every one of them. He just goes around and but I don't know what he's catching. Is he catching the big ones? Is he catching the right fish? Is he making the right choice to be where the big fish are? I don't know. That's the thing that I don't get with that forward facing. Yeah, you can see fish all the time, but and if I asked him, he would say, I got to have my forward facing just for what he's doing.
Well, and one of the things that you can do with forward facing, and I think everybody has said this already, is you can spend too much time on fish that you see. They may not bite. Just because you can see fish doesn't mean those fish are going to.
Me and George chased the school fish around for close to an hour and a half and never had them bite.
Right.
Never.
They came up and went, hello.
So think about that, how that equates to a tournament.
Yeah.
If you're just fishing and that guy's chasing fish that won't commit to his bait.
Yeah.
is there really
So
you know,
because we have both on George's boat, the cool thing about that, and where I think forward facing is like the cool as hell, is that 360 is going and you see your target, but you don't really know how that thing's lined up to that target. You can take the 360 and scan over and go like this and go
the forward,
or I'm sorry, the forward facing and go over like this, and you'll see it go whoop, 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 and you just go, and then right there it is. You just know right where it's at. You throw right to it every single time. So in that situation, and we actually did really well and came in.
Plus, you can see the fish on it.
You can see the fish, yeah. But we were fishing clumps of grass, like isolated clumps of grass, and you could see them on the 360, but you didn't really dial in. That thing would dial you right in. You'd make the perfect cast. You drag into the grass. You'd pop it through there. Boom. You'd catch the fish.
right?
That's what was I see as for me on my fishing. Is where I really saw.
Well, one of the things I've taken notice of, people are putting 360 on their boat and they're not calibrating it. If you calibrate it, it should, your cast should be right on target every time, you know. And I've done that down at the flats where I'd go to a dock, I'd put my power poles down, put my 360 on, and I'd see where every little pier was on that dock. And if it's not exactly where I need it to be, I'll move that 360 a little bit to calibrate it. Because if you're off at 10 feet out,
yeah,
you're going to be way the heck off.
Exactly.
20 and 30 feet
exactly.
Out. Yep.
Now let's put this in perspective of myself working 6 days a week, getting home on a Saturday night after having dinner with the family or going home and spending some time with the family. Working is like you know, on the boat as a little bit as you can.
Right.
You're going to the river, and this is the guys. You know what I mean? This is everybody except for, you know, this is what we go through.
Yep.
A lot of us. I'm not just talking about myself. A lot of our listeners. You know, the learning curve is there, and the calibration. So that's where, you know, we could just take that little. You know, for me, it's cheating. You take that forward facing, boop, 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 right there it is, dude. Make a cast to it, bingo, every single time. And we just did unbelievable with it.
Awesome.
So still learning, still, you know, doing our thing, and still, you know, but we're catching fish on it now.
We're
catching fish on it. We're using it. We're
having fun.
We're having fun with it. We're going to go perspective next week, or possibly this week if the wind blows on the Potomac and we don't get our Potomac trip in. Then we're going to go to the river and we're going to go perspective. We got a perspective mount. We're going to put that on there and see what that does for shallow water. What did Drew Cook said he was throwing in shallow water?
He does both.
He does both.
Yeah.
So he has like some kind of.
He has perspective and forward.
All on one rig.
No, one perspective to one unit, one forward to another unit.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. A lot of the guys that fish the Great Lakes and the St. Lawrence and big water like that.
Yeah.
They have one forward and one down.
Yep.
Wow. Well, you know, for all you guys who didn't get a chance to see last week's episode with Drew Cook, you definitely want to tune into that one. He's just a super guy, and you need to check that out. And the way you do that is you can go to any one of to YouTube and look at them on the history of YouTube, and they're all right there. They're all you know, posted right directly to there. And or you can go to any of your podcast destinations, Spotify, you know, iHeart, iTunes. We upload ours onto there every week after the show. It might be a couple days after, but we always get it up there, and you can go and you can listen to all the back episodes on there while you're driving, and listen to it that way. So if you missed it last week, you need to listen to it. Check it out. Okay, we're gonna roll this thing out. You know, thanks to everybody for joining us again on another edition of Tackle Shop Live. We're sorry we couldn't bring you Seth Fieder. Didn't work out. We're gonna see what the situation was, and we'll reschedule them or whatever. But we got to learn some cool stuff tonight. As always, this is what we're all about. You guys learning. We're learning. We're spreading the news. You know, so we're here to help you guys catch more fish. Thank you, Bill McDermott, Dave Schottelmeyer, Robert Bretts, everybody listening. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. And we will catch you on the next Tackle Shop Live.
Sunny day, right there you took my breath away. Young and pretty, was it just a dream? The next day you called me up, you told me I'm your little buttercup. You came over and you fell into my arms. Well, I know what I feel. Please tell me your love is real. You make me smile when I think of you. If I am down low and I am blue, I can't get enough. You make me happy, I feel so fine. Oh, how I wish that you were mine. I can't get enough. Holy supper. Chills running down my neck. I'm going crazy from just the thought of you. A long blonde hair and